Welcome back. And now let's go to Zimbabwe, where tributes are pouring in for UK-based law lecturer and government critic Magaisa, who died yesterday. The late Magaisa, who was a former advisor to the late MDC leader Morgan Tsvangirai, suffered a cardiac arrest yesterday. Political scientist Ibo Mandaza, while confirming the development in a Twitter post, said Magaisa's death is a great loss to Zimbabwe's intellectual community and to the struggle for a better and democratic Zimbabwe.
Now recall that in 2013, Magaisa announced on Facebook that he had been diagnosed with a heart problem. Now joining us live from Zimbabwe is Ostallos Siziba. He's the deputy spokesperson of the CCC. Good morning, Ostallos. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, fellow Africans.
All right, Ostallos, let's talk about the mood in Zimbabwe this morning. What is the mood? How was the reaction first to his death, the announcement of his death, and what's the mood in Zimbabwe this morning?
Thank you. I couldn't hear you. Can you come again?
I was asking what the reaction to the announcement of his death is and how the mood is in Zimbabwe at the moment.
Thank you. A dark cloud has fallen, not just in the Zimbabwean community, but also in the African continent. Very sad and painful news of the passing on of Dr. Magaisa. With respect, a well-known researcher and a thinker and an intellectual in the African continent. In Zimbabwe, we've lost a giant. You know, Alex's legacy within the government of national unity, which was keen bringing in the supreme document of the land, the constitution of Zimbabwe, this country that we use at this present juncture. Also, you know that the intellectual community, particularly the academics in this part of the country, have lost a giant who was well known for offering thought-provoking analysis of the Zimbabwean constitutional legal terrain. Dr. Magaisa was also very critical in terms of the formative stages of the movement for democratic change in September 1999. Also very important in terms of his public intellectual discourse, in terms of his contribution, you know, of his breakfast Saturday read, the Besara, which was very popular in terms of offering thought-provoking analysis of the day-to-day developments in our Zimbabwean political economy. So we mourn Dr. Magaisa as very sad and painful. We learned, of course, during the government of national unity that he had been diagnosed of a heart problem, and he has been living, you know, under such chronic difficulties. But we are happy. We celebrate him in terms of his contribution into the political discourse in our country and to humanity. He fought a very good fight, and we salute him.
Yeah, and of course, as the African continent continues to search for more outspoken, critics, if I can call them that, of government. Let's talk about now for Magaisa. What impact does his death have on the Zimbabwean opposition?
It's a very huge blow to us. You know that 6 months ago we also lost a human rights stalwart and a human rights defender, Dewama Vinga, who was very critical in terms of the broader pro-democracy contingent in our country. And right now we've also lost Dr. Magaisa. It's very difficult for us as the opposition. It's very difficult for us as the alternative, because these are key pillars of the democratic alternative in this country. And it's very worrying, it's very sad, it's very painful for us to accept and engage with these particular, revelations of the loss of critical people in the agenda of democracy in our country. But they did well in terms of mentoring and giving strategic direction and visioning to our generation, in whose legacy we have to make sure that we finish the unfinished business of the democratization process in our country.
All right, Ostallos, it's a very, very tough one, and our thoughts and our hearts, mourns with the people of Zimbabwe as well. You've spoken extensively of the impact of Dr. Magaisa, and we also know the impact he had as well in terms of the constitution writing in Zimbabwe. If you had to describe his legacy, what would you say the legacy is that he leaves behind in politics and life in general?
Thank you very much. Magaisa, for me, leaves a legacy of 5 things. Number 1, a legacy of thought leadership. There is no doubt in the Zimbabwean body politic that Magaisa was one of the sharpest thought leaders that were produced by the University of Zimbabwe till his death. So it's a legacy that Zimbabwe needs thought leadership, that Zimbabwe needs people who have the ability to question, but also to be able to provide solutions. Because Dr. Magaisa was not just a critic of the regime, but was also an offer of alternative ideas of how do we drive the Zimbabwean constitutional democracy forward. So it's the legacy of thought leadership. Number 2 is the legacy of values of accountability, as was seen by Dr. Magaisa. Ubuntu as a key value when it was not fashionable, when one of the most brutal champions of a violent election in 2008, who has also passed away, may he so rest in power, Dr. S.B. Moy, who championed and ushered in the military coup in 2017. When he was sick, when everyone was seemingly happy, it is Dr. Magaisa who came out in the spirit of Ubuntu and pronounced unequivocally that as Zimbabweans, we must wish S.B. Moy very well, because we are sojourners in this world, we are pilgrims in this world. And ironically, today Magaisa has shown that in this world, we must just live to leave a mark in the annals of history, because it's about that legacy, it's about Ubuntu, it's about leaving a mark in the history of the process of humanity in our motherland. Absolutely. Number 3, Magaisa leaves a legacy and a history of making sure that we build a credible alternative. His legacy is about building the pro-democracy movement into what it is today. When we formed the MDC in September 1999, it is Magaisa then from the student fraternity in the law faculty at the University of Zimbabwe that immediately offered alternative ideas. So the birth of the pro-democracy movement as an advancement of the liberation project is a discourse that was born out of people like Magaisa, who were able to critically offer that the willing buyer, willing seller project has expired and was not sufficient to answer the landless question in our country, thereby ushering the need for veterans to remember that at the center of the liberation struggle was the question of land. So he was part and parcel of a generation that connected the pro-democracy movement with the liberation ethos and values. Number 4, Dr. Alex Magaisa leaves a legacy of the fact that we are Zimbabweans. Our politics has been dominated by the toxicity of binary divisions that were created by the dominant political parties, the Movement for Democratic Change and ZANU-PF. Dr. Magaisa was able to think beyond the existence of political parties, particularly talking about sport, talking about our nation, talking about things that can build a Zimbabwean community that is united, a Zimbabwean community that is focused on the task to liberate our people, the task to transform the lives of Zimbabweans, regardless of their social, religious, tribal, in particular the tribal divide. Dr. Magaisa was able to penetrate the sharp divisions of tribal divide and bring Zimbabweans from the north, from the south, together to make sure that we build a united Zimbabwean community.
Yeah,
Number 5,
in the interest of time,
of loyalty.
In the interest of time, I understand, there's so much, that needs to be said about, his work and the things that he did for Zimbabwe. But we, of course, need to move on. But thank you so much for the time you shared with us this morning. And like you said, Ubuntu, looking forward to speaking with you again.